On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, Not Long Ago, Not Far Away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.
Hey everybody, we're the Benchwarmers. I'm Jamie. I'm here with my co-host Gabe. Gabe, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. It's another beautiful day on Hashem's green earth. It's May now.
You sound like my daughter come back from her Chabad run weekly Hebrew school.
Yeah, I think a Chabad run Hebrew school would be, it's a beautiful day on God's, on Hashem's green earth. And do you have any property we can invest in?
Sure. Well, we recently finished up Passover, had 4 cups of wine plus a cup for Elijah. Unfortunately, there was no cup left over for Matt Mervis. Who recently took a throw over from third base right into a sensitive area. Appeared to be cupless.
Right into the keckle?
Yes. There's a million Yiddish words for the place he got hit. And seems to be okay. Continued playing. I played the next day. Broke a bat over his knee, which is always cool to see.
Ooh, that's always cool.
Not having a great year. Yeah. Not having a great year. Hitting some homers, but struggling to break the Mendoza line. So,
okay.
Not
hopefully
not perfect, but
line.
Yeah. That's the dread is getting a baseball like ignominious stat named after yourself.
Yes.
Like everyone wants a Maddox. Nobody wants.
Nobody wants a Mendoza.
Mendoza.
Zach
I don't know if
Geloff
there's any
led
of the
the
real
league
bad ones.
Zach Geloff led the league in strikeouts last year, so hopefully that won't be called a Geloff.
Yeah. In other baseball news, we should say that Spencer Horwitz seems to be close to coming back. He's been playing in Double-A, which is exciting.
He's on his minor league rehab assignment. Pittsburgh, great city with a lot of Jews. The team could use him. They're not off to a very good start. But with any luck, he'll inject a little bit of offense into the team, which is something we could see. But I think, offensive Jews, as we've been talking about so far, are something. But how about the season Max Fried's off to on the defensive Jewish side? Multi-time gold glove winner, and might be adding some hardware to his cabinet soon.
Yeah, it hurts me as a Blue Jays fan, but as a Jewish sports fan, I got to say it's only nachas for Max Fried's 2025 so far. He is rocking a 1.01 ERA.
That's fantastic.
He's 6 wins through 7 starts. He has just been lights out. Sent down the Jays pretty quickly. No earned runs.
Completely.
He has not had an earned run since April 15th. So
since the second or third game of the season,
he's on quite a run here. He's getting he's pitching to contact a fair amount, but nobody is really getting hits on him. He has 8 hits over his last 3 games. Again,
so he's dancing. The ball's dancing.
Yeah, the ball's dancing. He threw a 7-inning one-hitter the other day, very very impressively. Dean Kramer also had I think a 7-inning shutout, but I can't remember if maybe a 3-hitter. So he's been sort of up and down this year a little bit. But Max Fried, currently among the favorites to win the Cy Young. He would be
1 month into the season, but still
1 month into the season. That's the grain of salt with which we should take all this. But I should say he would be the first Jewish Cy Young winner since Steve Stone won in 1980. I'm going to say it was certainly a long time ago.
Does Dylan Cease have a Cy Young yet? He does not.
Dylan Cease doesn't. I think he was runner-up, or he came in third a couple years ago in Chicago. Steve Stone in 1980 was the last Jewish Cy Young winner. So again, it's a long season. Anything can happen, but it's going well for Max.
That's pretty exciting.
My only concern is that he's going to play himself out of a Team Israel spot.
Yes,
if he is,
he's so good. He'll play for Team America.
I think he would get invited to play for Team USA. and maybe he would feel a sense of wanting to do that. Obviously, there's been a few Jews who have played for Team USA at WBC because they've been able to be starters. And I feel like Max Fried is like, right now, I would say like Skeens is probably their like game 1 starter, or like,
but Max
in a
Fried
finals,
is their game 2 starter, and especially if there was a game in LA, it would matter, or New York even. Max Fried, we say Jews are bi-coastal. People often talk about Jews as bi-coastal people, and maybe nobody has lived that as much as Max Fried. At least notably. New York and LA, the 2 towns that he's, Atlanta, he had his time, but, grew up in LA, superstar there, and then New York as he is now.
Yeah. So I guess Tarek Skubal is also probably, high on that list, but I don't know. I just feel like it would be really cool to see a sort of super team of all the best MLB players. And I hope Max Fried thinks about it. I hope they get it together.
Hopefully the group chat is working on him.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe the sense of, being in New York that will rub off on him. So we'll see. We'll continue to track, obviously, his progress.
But he's a Yankee. I know they say that, like, I was telling the story the other day. My uncle came to Toronto many years ago. This is before interleague play, to see Roger Clemens. Maybe interleague play was just getting started.
Okay, sure.
And he had never seen Roger
that would
Clemens.
have been interleague. I think started in 95 or 96. So Clemens.
Yeah, so
Clemens
he had never seen Roger Clemens, because even though he spent his whole life in New York and Boston, Roger Clemens played for Boston for a decade, he would never set foot in Yankee Stadium as a Jew. Not as a Jew.
That's really funny. That is. No, but that is very much the that's my synagogue. That's a synagogue I would never step foot in.
Exactly.
But for Jewish baseball fans,
it's for
we should mention. Sorry, I should have said this off the top, but we do have an interview coming up in the second half of this episode that I hope everyone sticks around for. We had an interview with the director of a new film about Yeshiva University's basketball team. It is mostly a post-October 7th look at the team. It is really about their sort of dealing with adversity related to that, a trip to Israel that they took, and the effect of that on their team. Patrick Diamond is the name of the director. He's a longtime sports doc guy. He's been at HBO Sports for a long time.
Not Jewish.
He was not Jewish. I should say a rare non-Jewish guest. It's a Diamond, Dimon, and
like Jamie Dimon, banking dynasty.
Exactly.
Which
right, also someone who I think is people expect to be Jewish.
Yes,
but Pat was
I think he's Greek. I think Jamie Dimon is Greek.
Could be, yeah. Anyways, very happy that he was able to come on the show and join us to talk about that. I don't know exactly how it is streaming in Canada, because it's streaming on Fox Nation. We'll try to get that information out, but if you're in the States listening to us, it is a documentary on Fox Nation. It is really interesting. It's interesting to hear his perspective on why he wanted to cover this story, as a non-Jew. I think a lot of Jewish sports fans have been following along with Yeshiva over the last couple of years. It's amazing how it's increasingly easy to do that sort of thing. I mean, this is a Division III basketball team, but you can watch all of their games on YouTube now. Like, you can follow along with a box score. It is not as difficult as it once was.
Right. I mean, even a couple of years ago, Amari Stoudemire was going to games. Right. Just to watch. I also think, there's got to be like a roster of non-Jews who are just involved with Yeshiva University somehow. A good friend of mine who was not Jewish, somebody I grew up with in Toronto, is a professor at their medical school. And, he is a Catholic raised, Eastern European man who is a doctor and found himself a job there. And yeshiva professor is sort of the last expected thing, but it's not exclusively, how the non-Jews that are involved in Yeshiva University in any way got there is always an interesting story.
Well, I'm going to guess that given where it is located, I don't know what technically if it's considered Washington Heights or I think it's north of what would be considered Spanish Harlem, but like Yeshiva's way up there, right? Like, it's not Inwood, but New York better than me. It's like Washington Heights or Hudson Heights, something like that.
It's up there,
but it's in a very Dominican part of New York, even for New York standards, I think. So I would imagine there's probably a fair amount of Dominicans working at Yeshiva or involved in Yeshiva, and there's some commonality there.
It's very much, it's up there. It's like Cloisters area, north of Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, exactly.
It's on Manhattan, north of Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, exactly. So, it would be interesting to do some sort of research deep dive into the connection between the Dominican and Israel and Dominican and Jews, because there is this like deep seated connection that a lot of Dominican baseball players have talked about and feel. So anyways, that's a project for another time, but
yes,
please stick around for that interview. Please check out Rebound wherever you can. Before we get to that, let's just touch on a little bit more Jewish sports news. Zach Hyman's on to the second round. The Oilers.
So you started this episode by discussing the lack of a cup. Edmonton, I would say they've won 5 games in a row. They've come from behind as of this recording, and all of them, They sort of might be the cup favorites all of a sudden. And for their 5th win in a row, the come from behind game winning goal was scored by Zach Hyman.
Exactly.
He's
he
having
scored
a great
the winner last night against the Golden Knights. He's having a great,
yes, that was last night.
I think it was a second goal, but he's been contributing. And yeah, like you say, they are definitely favorites to win their series now, given that they won their first game in Vegas. And if they make it to the conference finals, given their history last year, I think they have a good shot at doing it. It would be great to see Zach back in the finals. He was the leading goal scorer in the playoffs last year.
Yes. I think he had 17 goals or something like that in the playoffs, which is outrageous in 20-something games. I think Connor McDavid and Connor Brown currently, 2 other boys from Toronto, but not Jewish ones, are currently leading the league or the playoff scoring leaders. But Hyman, is the third guy on that line. And obviously contributing and drawing a lot of attention if his 2 line mates are both playing so great.
So obviously we'll continue to watch Zach and support him and follow his quest for glory. I do not believe there's any Jews left in the NBA playoffs, but Jalen Brunson, who had a great game 1, stole game 1 from the Celtics for the New York Knicks, married to a Jewish woman. So
no way.
That's something. We got that.
That's, we had right. Kevin Love before, married to a Jewish woman. Do we still have another one? Jalen Brunson, huh?
Yeah, not bad. I don't know if he has any plans to convert, but I think there's some connection there. So exciting for Knicks fans. We've talked before about how nice it is for New Yorkers to have a Jewish sports star to root for. So hopefully Knicks fans know about Jalen Brunson's connection.
They
Jewish
know
Knicks
about
fans can root for wife. Yeah, they know about Jalen Brunson's wife. Anyone on the? I know the women's hockey playoffs.
Yes, so the season ended, and even
circuit?
Though they didn't make the playoffs. The Boston Fleet, they didn't make the playoffs, but their goalie Aaron Frankel was probably the best goalie in the league this season. She finished second in the league in save percentage, and the only player to finish above her, the only full-time goalie to stay above her, Anne Renee Debienne, played for Montreal, who gave up the fewest goals this entire season. So because of that probably, Montreal was just an extremely good team that had a much better defense than Boston. And Frankel is discussed as maybe a likely winner of the best goalie award this year, whose name I don't know. We should look it up, but she had a spectacular season. The other, not full-time, but the other goalie in the league who was Jewish, Abby Levy, did not have that great of a season. New York did make the playoffs, but didn't have as good of a year. Sorry, New York also didn't make the playoffs, I should say. And she didn't have as good of a year. But big ups to Erin for having a really, really fantastic season and, solidifying herself now. She was the starter for Team USA, won the World Championship a few weeks ago. So she's solidifying herself as one of the best goalies in the world, which is pretty exciting.
Before we get to the interview, I have one more piece of news I want to mention, which has been a really great run recently by Ukrainian tennis player Alina Svitolina, as we have dug deep into before. She has one Jewish grandparent. She thought about moving to Israel and playing for Israel internationally. So I don't know exactly if she identifies. Always a little tricky with Soviet Jews, given the repression of Judaism in the Soviet countries during the many years of the Iron Curtain. But she won the Open de Rouen at the end of April. She had a very good she had a very good run at the Madrid Open, losing in the semifinal to Sabalenka, the number one player in the tournament. But she is playing now in the Italian Open, and this is sort of like, there's a good run of European, mostly European tournaments before Wimbledon and the French Open. So exciting to see how she'll do. She took most of 2022 and some of 2023 off as she was pregnant and had her first child. Pretty solid 2024 in terms of like getting to third, fourth rounds of majors or to Grand Slams. I believe she won a tournament in 2024. I can't remember which one. But this is a good run. I would say she is 30. It's crazy to say this.
It's
about someone who's younger than we are, but it's it is towards the twilight of a tennis career, I think is fair to say for anyone, not just for her. But she had some real heights in her career, making it to semifinals of Wimbledon, US Open. Another run like that, back into the top 5 would really be something to see. She had her sort of peak in 2021, 2019 to 2021 before the baby. And again, I don't mean to, it's hard to talk about these sorts of things without talking about women's bodies in a way that, I don't know, maybe comes across as slightly misogynistic, especially for an unknowing man to be talking about. But I think the toll of pregnancy and having a child is tremendous on anyone. Trying to, go back to that level of elite physical activity and tennis playing ability is hard for anyone. We haven't seen that many people come back from having a child, but if she can, make a run this summer, try to make it, making it to the finals of any Grand Slam, or even semifinals would be a huge success. Any more tournament victories would be huge as well. So, wish her luck, and we'll see if, she may even have another run in her, going to a 2028 Olympics. It's far away, but,
it is. I understand tennis not so much. I understand a little bit of tennis. I understand sort of the process of it, but I think if she is going to continue performing, at a level where she can compete, anyone can get lucky and win a week.
That's right.
And maybe it happens for her, and then she rides off into the sunset, a Twilight champion.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on now to our interview with Pat Diamond.
On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, not long ago, not far away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.
Very excited to be joined tonight by Pat Diamond. Pat is the director of Rebound, A Year of Triumph and Tragedy at Yeshiva University Basketball. It is a documentary film about the Yeshiva University Maccabees basketball team. Pat, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And I should say Diamond is Dimon. Pat is one of the few non-Jewish guests we've actually had on the podcast. So congratulations on unrestricting the podcast space, the Jewish sports space.
Love it. Honorary. Thank you.
At the beginning of the 2023, I think, Yeshiva basketball season, up until the end of the 2024 season, as they, competed for the Skyline Championship or made it to the finals of the Skyline Championship. What got you interested in Yeshiva basketball in the first place? I mean, I don't mean to be calling you out, but you're not Jewish. This is a pretty Jewish story. I think a pretty Jewish school. And the documentary is incredibly focused on what these Jewish players are going through. So what got you interested in Yeshiva basketball and their story in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked in kind of sports documentaries for, over 20 years. I am just a fan of a good story, really. So, I'm game if I don't happen to be from whatever similar background of the story I'm covering. I'm a fan of different cultures and different people and different places. So, I think, obviously, even though I'm not Jewish, I think Yeshiva has an extremely interesting and kind of just a very kind of interesting space in that obviously, they are an Orthodox Jewish basketball team, which obviously we don't see a lot of. And so, that right there for me is just an interesting world where sports kind of collides with bigger picture things in life. And I'm always a fan of that. So, yeah, I mean, I knew about Yeshiva. Coach and I were introduced about, I think in 2022, his son is a professional baseball player, and someone approached me about doing a story about his son. So his son was the first Orthodox Jewish baseball player drafted. So Coach and I met back in 22 or, kept in touch on and off. And then obviously, I told Coach, like, listen, we should stay in touch. I find it fascinating. You guys, they were on that historic 50-game win streak. And so we stayed in touch. And then obviously we reconnected after, after the attacks of October 7th.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. Did planning and production start at all before the attacks of October 7th? Or was the sort of, gearing up and actually following the team, was that sort of, in part at least, sort of a response or sort of wanting to follow that story of how the team responded to the terror attacks?
Yeah, so it was in the back burner of my mind, obviously, when Coach and I had met a couple of years ago about following the team. And then, but yeah, this specific project after the attacks, we reached back out to the school and we reached out to Coach and said, listen, I know it's a really difficult time, but it's times like these that are worth documenting. And so thankfully, they kind of trusted us. And so, we were off and running basically right after that.
The films, there's a lot of footage of the team playing basketball, game footage and reactions, in the locker room, things like that. But a sizable portion of the film, the middle of the film, basically is the team's trip to Israel in the wake of the attacks, and their reactions, meeting with people, going to the Nova exhibit. I'm just curious from a process standpoint. As the director, are you there the entire time? Is it a crew that's out with them getting, footage, and then it's all assembled in post? I'm just curious about the process of that. Is that, is it determined, we're going to do these long shoots, this is how it's going to go? Or is it something that you find through the making of it and then put it together afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, we essentially, got the blessing of the school, after the attacks. And so, started to come up with a game plan kind of at the end of that year, 23. And Coach mentioned to us, hey, I think I'm taking the entire team to Israel for the first 8 days of January. And I kind of said, oh my God, that's incredible. So we're, essentially 2.5 months after not even probably 60 days or so after the attacks. The crew and I, knew that this was going to be a really kind of powerful pinnacle, kind of pivotal moment for this team going back home. A lot of the players going to see family for the first time, obviously going back and back to home for some of them, Israel for the first time in a little while, and kind of seeing.
I should say that the team is comprised largely of American Jews, but there are a number of dual citizens or Israeli citizens who are on the Yeshiva team as well.
Yep, 6
who are playing for Yeshiva. Six members of the team.
Six Israeli players, and 6 or 7 American. Yeah. We know it was the crew and I over there the entire 8 days with the team in Israel for the first week plus of that year. And so that was a really, we knew that was going to be a really powerful kind of moment for this team, and in the middle of the season. So we knew it was, we were thankful that they trusted us to come with them. And it was an incredible experience. I had never been to Israel before.
You talked a little bit at the start about the unusual nature of a Orthodox Jewish University basketball team in IBA. They are essentially the only one in North America, at least. Through the process of filming, putting the project together, were there other things that you found or that you learned about the team or its unique habits, rituals that was surprising or fascinating or interesting in terms of how they pulled together being a basketball team or competing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, well, not obviously for anyone that doesn't know kind of the faith, obviously Friday night to, Friday sundown, to Saturday sundown. There's no everyone it's kind of a day of rest and celebration and being with family. And so, yeah, I mean, there's no basketball. They have to move their entire schedule around, obviously, weekend games and travel and everything. Kosher food,
right.
Prayer, they keep to it, and it's really impressive. Obviously, as we know, it's really difficult just to be a college kid in general, and then on top of that, adding kind of all the the what they go through to keep keep to their traditions and their faith is an added layer on top of the fact that you're a Division III, you're a basketball player, which has its own challenges and time, time commitment. So, yeah, really just impressive group of young men and the whole staff and the whole school. It's really just, prayers on the bus. And, Zevi, obviously you see throughout the film, is extremely religious, and,
right.
He's just really, it's really impressive that he can kind of bring the, his faith and his kind of belief system to the basketball court, and not in a physical way, obviously, but really in like a spiritual, mental way. He kind of can lead the team because they know he's so dialed in, like on the court and then off the court. You know what I mean? So that's like a really interesting component of the story for sure.
I mean, the story in the documentary ends in 2024. Yeshiva had a more successful year this past year, winning Skyline, and Zevi, I think, is going to be back. I think he has one more year of eligibility. He's a senior going into this year, so be interesting to see if they can make some waves in the Division III tournament. Obviously it's an incredible program that Coach Steinmetz has put together.
Yeah, really impressive. Like, I think something for people to watch in the film is that, any kind of preconceived notions you have about whether any type of people or, can or can't do something just because it might be the norm. Like, I think that's a barrier that we kind of break down because, these guys can ball, and they're
right.
They compete in the Skyline every year for the pretty much, that between them and LIU, Farmingdale, those are the two dominant teams. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a whole different world when you go up to the campus and you see the gym is packed and people are kind of loving the games and they're going crazy for all the guys. So, yeah, it's really something that I hope people see and kind of, it opens their eyes a little bit and breaks down the walls of kind of some preconceived notions on who can do what in sport and beyond that,
Maybe I should have said this off the top, Pat, but you've had a long career in sports documentary, sports journalism. I know you're heavily involved with Full Swing, the Netflix golf show. Is there something you look for? Is there some commonality in sort of all sports documentary? I mean, I guess there's sort of I don't know, like the Rocky idea of, rags to riches, ruin redemption. Like there are some commonalities in sports stories, but documentary, I mean, you don't always have the advantage of determining the narrative.
Yeah, I mean, I think I personally love the fact, I mean, you brought it up earlier, the fact that I don't love this, I don't mean to say that, but, they didn't win the year that we followed them. They obviously, lose pretty handily to LIU Farmingdale. And listen, if this was a Disney movie, obviously they come back from Israel and they win the championship and everyone's saved and everything's great. But listen, I personally, I am a believer in just like you said, letting the story play out on itself. And if it's a strong enough story, which I think it is, they don't have to have this, kind of kumbaya ending moment, Disney moment. They lost and they got pretty much handily beat in the finals, but that's fine. It was about, the season wasn't about winning. It was about, persevering and playing through a hard time and kind of hopefully bringing some light and a little bit of distraction to the families and the players from a tough time that they were going through. So that specifically to this story is that of course, if they won the conference championship the year we were following, of course, that would have been great. And they went to the D3 NCAA tournament, would have been super cool.
Well, I think that definitely shines through in the movie. And, there's a lot of incredibly interesting lessons, and it is really a story of resilience as much as anything else, and I think that really does come through. So thanks so much, Pat, for joining us, and definitely check out Rebound. I think we have a lot of listeners who are big fans of Yeshiva University.
Yep, it's on Fox Nation, so you can subscribe to Fox Nation. It's on there now, and so I hope everyone gets a chance to take a look.
Thanks so much for joining us, Pat.
Thanks, James. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much to Mr. Diamond for the interview. It's I wouldn't necessarily call him a Mike Jacobs All-Star, but you throw a D on the end there, and you'd really think he was one of us.
Mike Jacobs All-Star.
Yeah, and I don't know, TV documentary producer and about a Yeshiva basketball team. That's not hurting. Thanks again to Pat for joining us, and I do recommend checking out Rebound. Anyways, as always, we're brought to you by the Canadian Jewish News. You can find all our content on the Canadian Jewish News' website, the CJN.ca. You can listen to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and you can check out the CJN's other podcasts. I recommend the CJN Daily from today about making a heritage moment about
Victor Garber,
Canadian jurist Bor Alaskan, starring Victor Garber. Nice to have a heritage moment played by a Jew. A Jewish Canadian hero played by a Jew. Always good to see that.
Yes. So my question for you, as a Jewish Canadian lawyer, is Bor Alaskan the mensch on the bench? Was he the original mensch on the bench?
Yeah, I mean, I think like any Canadian Jewish Law Association, he is the guy to whom reverence is made. I don't know. I guess Brandeis would be the equivalent.
Rosalie Silberman.
Do you mean Rosalie Abella?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I mean, there's a lot of reverence for Rosalie Abella as well, but Justice Abella is still alive and was on the bench until very recently. So for someone from a previous generation, I would he's sort of the equivalent to Louis Brandeis in the States. The law school in Lakehead's named after him. Nice to see a Canadian heritage minute.
Absolutely. How many Jews were in Thunder Bay in 1910?
That's a great question. I think a few dozen. It is sort of amazing that he was. I think he was Fort William, right? It was back.
Yeah, it wasn't even Thunder Bay. Yeah. It was Fort William. And what's really interesting is how he got into government work. I'm sure they talk about this. He wasn't allowed in any firm. Nobody would hire him because he was Jew.
Yeah, he was the gold medalist. He was the top student at his school, but no one would hire him. And he wrote head notes for a while and did government work and stuff like that. Anyway, so check out that episode of the CJN Daily and follow us on Twitter at Menschwarmers. We'll be back with you with more news from the world of Jews and sports in a few weeks. See ya.
On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, Not Long Ago, Not Far Away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.